Hello, this is UNIONE Global Discovery Series. In the previous video, we examined common mistakes that new buyers make. Today, we will look at a different issue: how opportunistic buyers behave in international trade. Not every buyer is trying to build a long-term trade relationship. Some buyers focus only on the immediate opportunity without considering continuity, cooperation, or structure. Not all buyers approach international trade with the same intention. Two buyers may request information about exactly the same product, but their objectives can be completely different. One buyer may be looking for a stable supplier and a repeatable business model. Another may simply be searching for the lowest possible quotation at that moment. The inquiry may look similar, but intention behind it determines how the relationship will develop. The first pattern is an excessive focus on immediate price advantage. These buyers often compare quotations quickly and choose whichever offer appears cheapest today, but they may not examine the full transaction structure. They may overlook documentation, compliance, logistics, payment conditions, or supply stability. Price is important. However, price alone cannot tell us whether a transaction is practical, repeatable, or sustainable. The second pattern is frequent supplier switching. When a buyer receives a slightly lower quotation, the buyer may immediately move to another supplier, but each new supplier brings different conditions, documents, product specifications, schedules, and communication methods. The buyer must begin the learning process again. Constant switching may create a temporary price benefit, but it also breaks continuity, operational knowledge, and mutual trust. The third pattern is repeated quotation adjustment. Some buyers continually ask the supplier to revise prices, reduce margins, change quantities, or reopen previously discussed terms. Reasonable negotiation is a normal part of trade, but repeated adjustment without a clear purchase decision consumes considerable time. The exporter continues calculating and revising. The supplier continues checking conditions, yet the transaction itself does not move forward. The fourth pattern is a lack of transaction continuity. The buyer may make an inquiry, request samples, or ask for detailed documents, but after receiving the information, communication becomes irregular or stops completely. There is no clear follow-through. There may be no purchase decision and no repeat order. Without continuity, neither side can plan inventory, production, marketing, or future cooperation. These behaviors create uncertainty throughout the transaction. The supplier does not know whether the buyer will proceed. The exporter does not know whether the requested work will lead to an actual order. Production, documentation, and logistics cannot be planned with confidence. This uncertainty becomes an operational burden. It requires time and resources even when no commercial transaction is completed. Uncertainty directly affects supply planning. Suppliers and exporters need reasonable forecasts to prepare inventory and production. If the expected order quantity changes repeatedly, inventory may become insufficient or excessive. Production schedules may also need to be changed. Packaging, documentation, and shipping arrangements may be delayed. Without predictable demand, the supply process becomes increasingly difficult to manage. As uncertainty increases, operational efficiency begins to decline. Every condition must be checked again. Quotations must be revised. Documents may need to be changed. Schedules must be reconfirmed. Instead of moving forward through a clear process, both parties repeat the same work. The transaction becomes slower, heavier, and more difficult to execute. Lower efficiency eventually increases the real cost of the transaction. The buyer may believe that repeated negotiation is reducing the product price, but every additional revision requires labor, communication, calculation, and management. Delays may also increase warehousing, logistics, or production costs. Therefore, the lowest quoted price does not always create the lowest total cost. Sometimes the cheapest buying behavior creates the most expensive operation. Long-term buyers operate differently. They still care about comparative prices, but they also consider whether the transaction can be repeated successfully. They evaluate communication, documentation, supply capability, delivery, and cooperation quality. Professional buyers do not simply purchase a product. They work to build a reliable and repeatable operating structure. That structure allows the business relationship to grow over time. Long-term buyers focus on continuity. They want to know whether the same process can be repeated for the next order. Can the supplier maintain product quality? Can documents be prepared consistently? Can production and delivery follow a reliable schedule? Continuity reduces confusion and allows both parties to improve their work with each transaction. It transforms an individual purchase into an operating system. Long-term buyers also focus on cooperation quality. Good cooperation requires clear communication. The buyer, exporter, supplier, logistics company, and local importer must understand their respective responsibilities. When roles are clearly defined, misunderstandings decrease. Problems can be identified and resolved more quickly. Cooperation quality determines whether a small transaction can eventually grow into a larger and more stable business. A stable structure improves predictability. The supplier can prepare production more accurately. The exporter can coordinate documentation and logistics more efficiently. The buyer can plan inventory, marketing, and local distribution with greater confidence. Predictability does not mean that every transaction will be perfect. It means that both parties understand the process and can respond to problems in an organized way. This predictability supports sustainable trade relationships. Opportunities are important in international trade, but opportunity without structure rarely creates lasting value. Opportunistic buyers focus on immediate price, frequent supplier changes, and short-term advantage. Long-term buyers focus on continuity, cooperation quality, predictability, and stable structure. The difference is not only how they purchase, the difference is how they build business. Thank you for watching. Next video, G018, why price pressure can destroy structure. This is UNIONE Global Discovery Series. Thanks again.